Hi GQ, I'm Nick is Not Green, and I'm here to tell you about my top 5 albums of 2022. Now, last year I did have 10 albums, okay? I honestly feel like this year was better for music than the year before, but I don't have as many albums that were at the forefront of my listening at the time. I'll start by doing some shout outs and I'll talk about music that some of my friends and myself made and that stuff because I don't have any biases. I can't put friends on my list. I have zero biases on a list that's about my own opinion. And then I'll also do honorable mentions of albums that I liked but that didn't make the top 10 list. This year was a fun year for music for me. I mean, I don't know, I might have put out a song under like my main music name, but I did put out a full album and I think 2 songs for my awesome music group, Queef Jerky. Dev Lemons and me, we put out a total of like 10 songs last year. She also put out a bunch of amazing songs, has a song coming out this Friday. Also, my pal Quadeca put out an album, I Didn't Mean to Haunt You. Great album, very great album. Listen to it on an airplane. Also, my pal Cavetown put out some music too. Put out these 2 Minecraft songs earlier in the year that are just like incredible. They'll make you cry. But again, who cares about any of that? Queef Jerky came out with an album. What can I say? Honorable mentions. I'll go through them really quick. Hello, Bambi. Big music head over here. Big music junkie. Okay, first honorable mention will be Few Good Things by Saba. I thought the album was great. I had a couple songs that I loved on there, like Survivor's Guilt is one of my songs of the year. Great Chicago rapper. You should listen to the album if you haven't. The next one is Lizzie McAlpine's 5 Seconds Flat. I thought this album was great. It had a lot of tunes that I was a big fan of. You can say that about any album that ever has come out. But I felt like the overall tone and the themes of the album flowed really well from song to song. Very cohesive project, and I'm excited to see what else she brings to the table in the future. Again, I feel like you could still say that about so much. I'm saying the vaguest things. I'm such a bad music critic. The next album I'm gonna put on here, it feels like my top like 4 through 10 albums this year could all be interchanged. So some of these could have easily made the top 5 list. It's Almost Dry by Pusha T. Dreaming of the Past, despite the fact that it had Kanye West on it, it was like maybe my top song of the year, at least like top 5. There were some songs that I was iffy on, but overall I thought the production was fun and I liked what Pharrell and Kanye both contributed to the album. And I like when an artist knows what he's good at and really leans into it, despite, maybe the well of Pusha T rapping about coke is starting to dry up, but he knows that he's going to give the people what they want as long as they want it, and I can very much respect that. Dude, it hurts to put this one not in my top 5, but Melt My Eyes, See Your Future, Denzel Curry. Denzel's always been in like my top 3 rappers, and he is one of the most consistent rappers I've ever seen throughout his entire career. But Melt My Eyes, See Your Future, despite the fact that I really like it and I connect with it and it grew on me over time, it still is probably my least favorite Denzel project. Maybe it's ahead of Imperial. I did expect it to be a more conceptual album, and it wasn't my favorite version of Denzel's lyricism. I feel like he's at his best when he's having fun, and he is really good when he's serious too, but I just feel like it was missing a little bit of something for me. And although it definitely makes my top 10, it just couldn't crack the top 5 only because I knew there's a lot of bias there from just liking Denzel as an artist and having him be one of my favorite artists. I have to accept that, if this is my least favorite project from him and I am a huge fan of him, then I don't think it should be in front of some of these albums that did stand out to me this year. And with that, let's get to the top 5 list. Okay, so number 5 has to be, I think, the album from 2022 that I listened to the most out of any other album, and that is Kenny Beats' Louis. Louis is an interesting album to me because from a artistic and conceptual level, it doesn't beat out some of the other albums in my top 10 list, but for what it is and for what Kenny wanted it to be, I really love the album. It's almost like a soundtrack or score to like his life up until this moment, and it feels very personal to him. And I love the instrumentals. They're like fun to like freestyle over and to like listen to in the background and even in the foreground. Like it really works for a lot of different things, and I think he's really proven himself in this project to be such a dynamic producer, because he's produced my favorite album ever and a lot of other projects that I love a lot. And I don't really think of him as an artist that I'm like, oh, Kenny Beats is like my favorite artist. But then I think about all the things he's produced and the things he's done. And this album especially is sort of like this bow tie on top of this career from him that has made a lot of music that I really respect and that I hold close to my heart. I think my favorite track from the album has to be Still. It has vocals from JPEG Mafia on it. And it is just I think it might have been my most played song of the year. And it's just such a great track. So number 4 on this list has to be Beatopia by beabadoobee. This is the first album from beabadoobee that I've gotten into ever. And I really, really liked it. I don't know the song that really stood out to me at first. I think it might have been Perfect Pair, but since then I got into the whole thing, and I was a very big fan of it, especially in the first like few months after it came out. I think some of my favorite vocals from an artist that have come out this year, and some of my favorite tracks would have to be Sunny Day, definitely Perfect Pair still. The fucking last song in the album is like one of my favorite songs that came out this year. Overall, a great summer album. You should wait till the summer, and then you can listen to it. Okay, number 3 on my list. This is where it kind of got tough, and I had to swap things in and out. Listen, I have pretty popular albums for my last 3. I mean, I usually do. I don't listen to that crazy of music. Last year, I think my top 3 was Claro, JPEG Mafia, and Injury Reserve. This year, that's pretty mainstream, but this year it's a little more mainstream, I think. My number 3 album, surprisingly, Jesus, what's going on up here? It would have to be Dawn FM by The Weeknd. God, I've never been a Weeknd fan before this year. And he came out with that album, and for some reason I listened to it and was like, holy crap, I really like this album. And since then I've gone back and listened to more of his discography, and nothing is... Can I just stop touching my hair? What's going on up there? I need to get a haircut. But for some reason, I just kept listening to that album. I felt like it was so cohesive and thematic, and felt like a world of music more than any other album that came out this year. I felt like he did a very good job of visualizing what Dawn FM was, like the world that it was built in and what the meaning is and how it should sound and how it would look. And it just feels like the whole thing was nailed to a T. Less Than Zero would easily have to be my favorite song, but I mean, Take My Breath and a myriad of the songs, Gasoline, I'm really into most of the tracks on this album, just as their own songs. And I feel like they work so well together. And it just surprises me that a release this big has this kind of quality and effort taken on it. Oh, I love The Weeknd. I love it. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Number 2 on this list would be an album that I think I would have said would easily be my album of the year, but it definitely goes back and forth for me, and I have a bunch of different thoughts on it, but I still will be putting it in this high spot. It will be Kendrick Lamar's Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. This is an album that when I first listened to it, I was like, yeah, this is the album of the year. The way Kendrick conceptually puts together a project affects me in a way like no other artist can. And now, especially after seeing him live, I can confidently say that I believe he is the greatest artist of our generation. And although I do think Mr. Morale has a lot more flaws than other projects of his, I do feel like those are part of the reason why I love it so much. Kendrick does speak about a lot of controversial topics, a lot of touchy things. But I do feel like for the most part, he does speak to his audience, and his audience understands what he's trying to say. And there's a mutual respect that it never really feels like he puts himself in hot water with his own audience or really exposes himself as much as he could. And I do feel like in Mr. Morale, he took a step back and he really showed a lot of his wounds and a lot of his bad traits and things that he is not proud of. He's not afraid to show people the kind of person he was, and even to show people the kind of person he is. And it definitely did have an effect on his audience in a way that I think he knew. I think he knew that this album was going to be received in a different way than past projects, yet he stuck with it because it is what he needed. It's the therapy that he needed, which kind of covers that theme of the whole album. It's him getting better and looking at himself and seeing his faults and trying to improve himself as he has this family and as he goes into this next era of his life that is a lot more mature and that hands him a lot more responsibility as an artist and a father and a husband. For all this stuff, I'm just speaking off the top of my head. I don't want to do a script for this, so I'm probably missing stuff for a lot of these albums and missing a lot of things that I probably will want to say. But all I can say is that every time Kendrick puts out an album, the listening experience is one that only comes around every few years, and one that will pique my interest more than any other artist. Regardless of what Kendrick does, the legacy he leaves with his art and in the context leading up to each of his projects makes these projects exist outside of just the music. And that's not to downplay the actual songs on the album. I do think the album doesn't get enough credit for really just how good the music is. And just because an album is conceptual and because he's a conscious rapper doesn't mean that the production ever really takes a back seat. And that's all I'll say about that. You could talk about that album forever. But what I also could talk about forever is that my number one album of the year would have to go to perhaps my favorite rapper right now, and that would have to be JID's The Forever Story. Since JID put out DiCaprio 2, he's been in my top 3 rappers. I think he is the only one who is perhaps more consistent than Denzel. I think down to every verse and every feature and every song he does, he puts his all into it, and it always shows. And I feel like this is the first time JID has taken a step back and really has wanted to make a project last and stay with him as a pillar of his career. And I do feel like The Forever Story is something that will live on forever with JID. Not only has he crafted an album that tells a story and creates a tone in a world around him, but he has done so with a set of songs that are very replayable, easy to invest in, and become familiar with the song very early on in the listening experience. It's not something that you have to really dig your teeth into or something that has to grow on you. It's something that really feels like special and good from the start and continues to be special and good. JID has proven himself to be an artist to watch out for after years of being compared to Kendrick and being goofed on for his voice and his delivery. He has fully harnessed that and brought it into his own music. Not even to say that old music was worth shitting on, because it wasn't. And he definitely got way more slack back in like 2018, 2019 for being like a discount Kendrick and trying to like do too much. But in reality, this is who JID is and who he was meant to be. And he understands his sound and his style and how he can make a good song more than ever. It's been great to watch him be as consistent as he is while also growing a lot. I can say the same thing about one of my top albums of last year from JPEG Mafia, is that he is also an artist who continually stays consistent but continues to grow somehow within a pool of consistency. People that have these projects that will age very gracefully. I think JPEG's the best example of that. The same thing with JID. They have projects that will all grow and age very well, yet you still see growth and change happening throughout those albums. I think growing throughout albums can also cause people to look back and see past projects as more amateur or out of touch or not as well done because of how much that artist has grown. But with an artist like JID, I only look back and can enjoy the music because I know that not only is it great, but you can see the stepping stones of what got him to this point. Dance Now is still an incredible song as the lead single of the album, still somehow holds up as maybe the best song on the album while being on an album that is my album of the year. Can't Punk Me with Earth Gang is another track that I just fell in love with immediately. And now that the album has come out, if you listened to it when it came out, you should check it out on Spotify now, because there's a full cut of it that has the final song. I think it's called 2007, and it is like the definitive closer to the album, and it really wraps the entire thing up. I think Louder 2 also wrapped the album up really well, but having that extra end there really felt like this is a big undertaking of a project that really paid itself off. And despite the fact that there are a couple songs on this album that I could do without, I could say that about any other album on this list, and it's very hard to find something that is like perfect all the way through. But I think for this year at least, this is the closest we can get to perfect, because this album is something really special, and I think it also is nice to see that album released with an artist who has deserved this kind of praise for a long time, and now he's finally getting it. I continue to say JID is by far the greatest artist to come out of Dreamville. I mean, people could call me crazy for the influence J. Cole's had and all that jazz, but like, I listen to JID's music and I'm like, this is going to be the guy. Like, yeah, this is it. So that's it, GQ. Green questions, GQ. That's funny. Oh, Bambi's so tired. He said he wants me to end the video so fast. Thank you everybody for watching. I'm gonna do a top 5 movies of the year very soon. If you want any other lists, let me know. Welcome to He Said Us. Hopefully enough people see this video, because I put them on my second channel last year, but people don't care about those videos, and I'm trying to start posting some real solid stuff. So I'm gonna keep bringing stuff to this channel. We're gonna hopefully watch He Said Us grow together, the road to 100K. We're on our way. Here's what I want you guys to do in the comments below, okay? I just want you to put your top 3. I know you want to say way more. I know there's all these albums you want to talk about. Your top 3 albums. Put them in a row and comment them. That's it. And then go through the comments and like every comment that has an album that was in your top 3 in their list. And let's see which one gets a lot of likes. Okay? We'll see what we like the most. All right, I'm very grateful for you guys this year. I know I'm doing my top lists later because I stopped posting and all that. I was so sad. But we will catch up on that. There's no rush. People still care, hopefully. I don't know. There's maybe some of you. I want to do this for myself. I want to be able to look back when I'm old and say, what were Nick's favorite albums in 2022? Anyways, that's it for me. Say bye, Bambi. Hi, everybody. Oh, I'm so tired. Oh, he's waving bye to everybody. That looked like I just propped up his hand. I was like, bye. But no, it was all him. Okay, bye, everyone.